So guys, we're going to start off this tutorial by drafting out a basic bodice pattern. So if you don't know how to do that, just look closely at what I'm doing right now. It's very easy. So I'm going to take this top here as my shoulder line, and from this line here I'm going to mark down to my bust point, which is 10 inches, and then I'm also mark my under bust, still leaving the tape right there. I'll mark my under bust point, which is 13 inches, and then I'll just go ahead to mark my waist as well, and my waist is 17 inches. Next, you're just going to make lines across these points. So this, I will call it my bust line. You remember I said this was the bust line, this is the under bust line, and then this here is the waistline. So guys, after doing this, the next thing I'm going to do now is to come up from the bust line by 2 inches, and this is going to be our chest line. So I'm also going to just draw this line across, and this is our chest line. So after marking out the chest line, then you're going to go over to the top where I said it's the shoulder line, and you divide your shoulder measurement by 2. So I divided mine by 2, and that is 7 inches, and I'm just going down from that point to meet my chest line. Next, on the chest line, you're going to divide your bust measurement by 4 and make a mark there. Then you're just going to connect an armhole to meet the point right there. So after doing this, I'm just making a neckline, which is not really necessary for this tutorial, but I just want you guys to understand what I am doing right now. There's actually a basic bodice pattern. So this is what I have right now. Now the next thing we're going to do is to come down to this bust line here, and I'm going to divide my nipple to nipple measurement by 2. So I'll take that measurement on the bust line, under bust line, as well as on the waistline. And I'm going to connect these 3 lines together with my ruler. After doing this, guys, the next thing we're going to do is to come down from this bust point here by 1 inch, and you're going to make a mark. And then this mark here, just leave it there first. We're going to come down to this waistline, and I'm going to take ½ inch on both sides beside this line, and then I'm just going to connect those lines as you see me doing like this to meet the point below the under bust. I hope you understand what I'm saying. If you don't understand what I'm saying, just look at what I'm doing right now in the video. So guys, after doing this, the next thing we're going to do is to get this shoulder point here. Measure what you have from the neck down to the end of the shoulder and divide what you have there by 2. So I marked that, and I'm just going to connect that point to meet my bust point. So this is what we have. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to take a measurement from my bust line down to my under bust line, and I measured it out, and it's 3 inches. So I'm going to take that 3 inches all the way around to form a little circle. So that's going to be my bust radius. So if yours is 4 inches, it means that you're going to mark that 4 inches all the way around to get that. For me, it's just 3 inches, so I'm marking that 3 inches all the way around, and now you're going to ensure that your tape, the tip of your tape is right in the middle of the bust line. Make sure it doesn't leave that bust line so that you get an accurate circle. So this is what I had after I was done. I know it's not very clear because I'm making use of a pencil, but I want you guys to actually understand what I'm doing. So now we're going to start working on the corset itself. We'll start making use of a marker. So on this under bust line here, regardless of the lines that we already have from the darts we made, from those lines of the dart, you're going to take ½ inch on both sides and connect it to the waistline, just like I'm doing like this. Take ½ inch on both sides from the lines that the dart gave you, and then connect them to the waistline. So after doing this, I'm just going to use my curved rule to connect my next thing I'm just going to do is to use my curved rule to connect this point to the tip of my dart. So I'm going to take the measurement in between here, and as you can see I have almost 1.5 inch, so I'm just going to take 1.5 inch. So what I'm going to do is to take half an inch towards the middle of the top, and I'm going to give 1 inch to the other side. So you're going to see what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to mark half an inch on this side, which is the part going towards the middle of my top, so half an inch here. And then on this other side, which is the part going towards the shoulder, this side, I'm going to mark 1 inch. So I'm just going to connect these lines, this point here, to my bust point. I hope you understand what I'm doing. Just use your ruler to connect them down to your bust point. Next, we're just going to connect these 2 points here with a curved rule so that it meets each other somewhere like this. So this is looking beautiful. Now we're going to come down to this chest area. This is the chest line, you remember. So you can decide to maintain the chest line or come down a little bit. For this, I decided to come down by half an inch. So after coming down by half an inch, I'm just going to go in again by half an inch, and I'm just going to connect this tiny point here like this. Now let's come back to this point here. So I'm trying to avoid gaping in our corset. So what I'm going to do is to just come out by 1/4 inch on both sides a little bit. As you see me doing like this, is not much of an issue. Just come out by 1/4 inch. This is just a way of trying to avoid gaping. So I'm just going to connect this point to meet the lines that we already had. Just if you don't understand what I'm saying, just look at the video. So you're just going to connect this point like this. And now what it means is that these new lines are what we are making use of, so we're getting rid of these old ones. So now I'm just going to use a curved rule to connect my middle, that's that middle of my chest, to the top of my cup, just the same way you're seeing me doing like this. So this is one part of the cup. So what I'm going to do now is to just connect the points like this, as you see me doing like this. Just look at the video, see the points I'm connecting. So you're just going to connect these points as well with your curved rule. So you can see one part of the cup is ready. Now we're going to come to the other side, and what I'm going to do is divide the measurements I have in between this hole here, as you can see, by 2, and I went down by half an inch from there. So what I'm going to do is to just make a line across from that half an inch point I just had, so just like this. And then we're going to just use a curve rule now to connect our point to the top of our cup, just the same way you see me doing it like this. So when you're through with this, we're just also going to connect this point and this point again with our curve rule, just the same way we did the other part of this corset. So this is what we have. You can see how pretty this looks already. Now, because this is going to be divided into 3 parts, what I'm going to do now is to come down to the cup, and I'm marking 2 inches on this point here. You can decide to come down by 2.5 inches or whatever. So whatever you have on that point, you're going to add half inches to it in the middle. So I'm having 2.5 inch in the middle here, as you see me doing like this. And then I will go back to the side again, and I'm going to have 2 inch here. So 2 inches on the side, 2.5 inch on the middle, and I'm just connecting these 2 points like this with a curve. So this is how beautiful it is. This is our 3-part cup. We're going to actually join this top of it together later. You're going to see how I will do that. So now we're done with the cup. We're just going to add all our measurements. So on the chest line, divide your bust measurement by 4 and mark it. Then take the measurement you have in between this cup here. For me, you can see it's 2 inches. So you're just going to replace that 2 inch from the point you already had. Replace that 2 inches. And then I'm going to add 1.5 inch for stitching allowance. Now after that, we're going to come down to the waistline. On the waistline, I'm going to mark my waist measurement divided by 4. I'm going to mark it here. And after doing that, you're going to take the measurements that you have here, which is 1 inch. For me it's 1 inch, it could be more for you, and mark it as well. And then I'm going to add my 1.5 inch stitching allowance as well. So now we're just going to connect our dots together, but remember that we are no longer making use of that top line. So I'm just going to stop my line at this other mark here. Just look at what I'm doing. Ensure that your points are meeting each other at the right spot, but don't take your line from the top. So see exactly how I did mine, right? So we have added our stitching allowance and replaced everything. So I'm just going to make a line at this end here, just so you understand where our cup ends. So this is basically all for the front part of this corset. Very easy, guys. It's very easy. This is how to cut a 3-part corset. What I'm going to do now is to just cut it out all the way around, and then we are going to join the top of this cup together. So we're still going to do it together, so don't be afraid. So guys, these are all the different parts of my corset. So what I'm going to do right now is to join this top part together on another piece. So I have another piece of paper right here, and I have a tape. So I'm just going to use this to hold these two pieces together, as you see me doing like this. And I'm just going to retrace it out on this new piece of paper that I have, so that we have one piece instead of two pieces. I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. So just place it on another piece of paper like this, and I'm going to hold it down with a pin and just trace out everything we have on here on this other piece. Now it's like one piece actually. So you see how I'm doing it like this, just tracing it all the way around. This is how you should do yours as well. Just trace it around together like this. So now we can remove our pin and just trace out the other part that we have. So now this is my one piece, so I'm going to call this 1, and you see I've already labeled the other part. So this is 1, 2 and 3. So these are the 3 parts of my corset. So this is how to cut out a 3-part corset. Very easy, guys, right? So now let's go over to the back. So for the back, I decided not to cut out another basic bodice pattern. So I have other tutorials on here where I cut out the different basic bodice pattern. Just look at the way I'm doing this. So I just placed the front pattern right on it, as you see me doing like this. I created a straight line, then placed the front part of it. This is the side, and then the middle of the front, that's the middle part of the front pattern. I'm placing it, but I'm going to ensure that in between this I have that 1 inch dart separation that we had in front. You know, there was a dart in front, so just replace it and then pin the front to it as well. If you don't understand this, you can always check out my other video where I used a basic bodice pattern, but I think this is actually easier to do. So now we're just going to trace out what we have here on the side of the front, right? Just trace a little bit of the top, and then just trace up this front as well, the middle part of the front as well. Just create a line, and then you can now remove this. Now you know this is the center of the back, so you can decide to go down. I want to go down on my back by 1 inch, so I'm just connecting this now to meet the side, and that's basically all for the back pattern. So from here I'm just going to mark my nipple to nipple measurement and then create my dart. You know, I added 1 inch, so I'm using that 1 inch that I separated the front with to just create my dart. This is something we would have done even though we used basic bodies. So this is basically it for the back. while I was cutting out, I realized that I didn't remember to add a stitch zipper allowance, but for this particular corset this is not necessary because I'm not going to be making use of a zipper, so I'm just going to cut it just the same way it is right now, because I'm even still going to cut away from this corset later, from this back pattern later when I'm sewing on my actual fabric. But if you're going to use a zipper, I advise that you add a zipper allowance to this. So I'm just going to slash one side of the dart, as you see, and I'm just going to join it together like this so that I take away the dart intake. So when I'm cutting this out on my actual fabric, I don't have to bother myself with dart making my dart anymore, because I've already taken the dart away. So I'll just cut this on my actual fabric as a one piece. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So this is basically it. So when I'm cutting out on my actual fabric now, I'm just going to cut this as one, and I will not mark my dart anymore. So this is the back part of my pattern, and this is basically it, guys. So this is the back, and this right here are the front pieces. So this is the center front, this is the side front, and this is the first part of the corset, the third part, and here this is the second part. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope that you find it helpful, and I actually hope that you try it out, because I made a corset with this and it came out really beautiful. I'm going to share that with you guys in my next video. If you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe.